The summer downpour washed over the city like a heavy curtain, but for 38-year-old Liam, it did nothing to wash away the bone-deep chill that had taken root in his chest. At an age when a man is supposed to have his feet firmly planted on solid ground, Liam was in freefall, his tech startup, the company he had poured 10 years of sweat, sleepless nights, and his entire life savings into, had filed for bankruptcy that morning. The shock of being ousted and betrayed by his co-founder and closest friend had delivered a fatal blow to whatever little faith in humanity he had left. The fallout hadn't just ruined his career, it had fractured his home. Exhausted by the crushing debt and the endless bitter arguments, his wife had finally packed her bags and taken their young daughter to her parents' house upstate. Liam dragged his feet down the empty sidewalk, the rain mixing freely with his tears. He felt like a piece of debris caught in a flash flood, drifting and utterly worthless. The questions gnawed at his mind in a relentless loop. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? I played by the rules, I worked harder than anyone, I tried to be a good man. So why am I losing everything? Desperate for a reprieve, he ducked into a narrow cobblestone alley to dodge the muddy spray of a passing delivery truck. There, hidden behind the sprawling wet branches of an ancient oak tree, sat a small, weathered stone church. Its heavy wooden doors were slightly ajar, casting a faint amber glow onto the wet pavement, a flickering invitation in the dead of the night. Without a second thought, Liam stepped inside, seeking shelter from the storm, or perhaps searching for a final sanctuary for a soul that was breaking apart at the seams. The interior was hauntingly quiet. The long oak pews were empty. A few votive candles flickered weakly beneath the wooden crucifix. Liam collapsed into the very back row, burying his face in his cold hands, and wept. For the first time in his life, the fiercely proud man surrendered. His voice cracked as he shouted into the hollow, echoing space. If you're really up there, why would you let this happen? If you are supposed to be all-powerful and all-loving, why are you so incredibly unfair to me? His voice bounced off the stone walls and faded into the heavy silence. Liam squeezed his eyes shut, half expecting a lightning bolt or a booming voice from the heavens, but there was only the steady drumming of the rain against the stained glass. You are looking for the answers out there, son, when all the answers you need are already inside. The voice was calm, deep, and steady. Liam flinched and spun around. Stepping out from the shadows of the vestibule was an elderly man dressed in faded denim overalls, leaning on a simple push broom. Deep wrinkles mapped the years across his face, but his eyes were piercingly clear, radiating a profound, grounding peace. "Who are you?" Liam asked defensively, quickly swiping the tears from his cheeks. "I just keep this place clean." The old man smiled warmly, taking a seat in the pew across the aisle. "But I heard you crying out. It's the sound of a man who has exhausted himself trying to swim up a waterfall." Liam let out a bitter, hollow laugh. "Swim up a waterfall? My life is a landslide right now, taking everything I love with it. My company, my family, my pride. I have nothing left. Do you know what it feels like to be stabbed in the back by the guy who was best man at your wedding? Do you know what it's like to watch your wife drive away because you're a complete failure?" The old man didn't answer right away. He reached into his pocket and handed Liam a clean, folded cotton handkerchief. "I know," the old man said, his voice as gentle as a breeze. "And since you came in here asking, I have some advice for you, not on how to get your money back, but on how to get yourself back." The old man pointed toward the tall arch windows where the storm was violently whipping the trees in the courtyard. "Look at the branches out there. When a hurricane hits, the rigid, stubborn trees that try to fight the wind are the ones that snap and get uprooted. But the willow branches and the tall grass, they yield. They bend all the way to the dirt moving with the storm, and when the winds die down, they stand right back up." He turned his gaze back to Liam. "People suffer because they operate under the illusion that they are in control. You are in agony over your business collapsing because you believed you held its destiny in your hands. You are devastated by the betrayal because you believed you could control another man's loyalty. The hard truth, son, is that you can't." Liam frowned, his jaw tightening. "So what? I'm supposed to just give up? Roll over and let life and other people trample me? No." The old man shook his head slowly. "Acceptance is not the same as surrender. Acceptance is simply understanding your own limits. You can till the soil, plant the seed, and water it, but you cannot force the sun to shine. Your only job is to manage what is actually within your grasp, your effort, your attitude, and your integrity. The outcome, you have to leave that to the universe. The moment you stop demanding that life follow your specific script, you will find peace. Liam fell silent. The truth of it stung. For a decade, he had lived in a constant state of hypervigilance. He micromanaged his staff, obsessed over every contract, and tried to manage his wife's anxieties instead of just listening to her. He had been bracing against the wind for years. "Even if I let go of the control," Liam whispered, his voice trembling. "The pain of this loss is real. It's tearing my chest wide open. Why does there have to be so much suffering? If there is a loving God, why not create a world where we only experience joy?" The old man offered a knowing, compassionate smile, the kind of smile earned only through surviving immense grief. A world with only joy is a world with no growth. Imagine yourself as a rough, unshaped block of marble. Pain is the chisel and the mallet in the hands of the sculptor. Every time the mallet strikes, you scream in agony as a piece of you is chipped away, falling to the floor. But without those painful strikes, you would remain a cold, shapeless stone forever. The masterpiece inside you would never see the light of day. The old man leaned forward, his weathered hand resting gently on Liam's shoulder. An unexpected warmth seemed to flow from his touch. Pain is not a punishment. It is an instrument of expansion. A heart that has never been broken cannot fully open to hold the suffering of others. Your losses today are hollowing you out, yes. But that emptiness is simply creating the necessary space for you to hold greater love, deeper humility, and true compassion. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this happening for me?" The betrayal taught you discernment. The bankruptcy is teaching you that your worth is not measured by your stock options. Your pain is a magnificent gift wrapped in very ugly paper. At the mention of his former partner, a flash of deep, venomous anger crossed Liam's face. "I can accept losing the money, but I will never forgive him. He's sleeping soundly in a massive house that my sweat paid for. I hate him." The old man sighed, a look of profound sorrow crossing his eyes. "Son, holding on to resentment is like drinking rat poison and waiting for the rat to die." Liam froze, the words hitting him like a physical blow. That man lied to you, and he took your assets. But you, through your hatred, are allowing him to continue robbing you every single day. You are letting him steal your sleep, your peace of mind, and your present moments. You are the one carrying that boulder on your back. He isn't. Forgiveness does not mean excusing bad behavior. It does not mean you have to invite him to dinner. Forgiveness is the most beautifully selfish thing you can do. It is taking a pair of bolt cutters and snapping the heavy chain that binds you to the person who hurt you. You do not forgive for him. You forgive to set yourself free. "How do I even begin to do that?" Liam asked, the fight finally leaving his body. "By realizing that the man who hurt you is a deeply broken person. His greed and his betrayal were born out of a pathetic, hollow fear inside his own soul. When you stop looking at him as an evil mastermind and start seeing him as a blind, lost man stumbling in the dark, your hatred will naturally dissolve into pity." Outside, the heavy rain had finally begun to taper off into a soft drizzle. The suffocating weight on Liam's chest had inexplicably lifted, yet the paralyzing anxiety of tomorrow still lingered in the back of his mind. "I hear you," Liam said softly. "I really do. But tomorrow morning, I still have to face the bankruptcy lawyers. I have to figure out how to talk to my wife. I'm almost 40 and I have to start over from absolute zero. I am terrified of the future." The old man stood up, leaning his broom against the pew, and walked toward the open church doors, taking a deep breath of the cool, rain-washed air. "The past is ashes. The future is fog. The present moment is the only diamond you actually hold in your hand. You are letting the ghosts of yesterday and the phantoms of tomorrow suffocate the only life you have, which is right here, right now." He turned back to Liam, his eyes shining in the dim light. "Heaven and hell are not zip codes you go to after you die. They are states of mind you inhabit right now. Whenever you let your mind wander into the regrets of the past or the terrors of the future, you are putting yourself in hell. But when you bring your attention entirely to this exact second, feeling your lungs expand, feeling the blood pump through your veins, noticing the quiet of this room, you step into heaven. Tomorrow, when the lawyers call, be present with them. Do the next right thing. You don't have to build an entire brick wall in one day. You just have to lay one single brick as perfectly, honestly, and beautifully as you can, then you lay the next one. Your new life will be built entirely out of those small presence moments. Liam bowed his head, letting the profound simplicity of the words wash over him. Fresh tears fell, but these were no longer tears of despair. They were tears of immense relief. He felt as though he had just woken up from a suffocating, decade-long fever dream. He looked up to say thank you, to ask the old man his name, but the aisle was empty, the groundskeeper was gone. There was no sound of footsteps, no closing doors. Liam jumped up and ran to the vestibule, looking out into the alleyway. It was completely deserted. The street lamps reflected off the wet cobblestones, but there was no one in sight. Confused, Liam walked back to the pew where the old man had been sitting. Resting on the polished oak was a small, vibrant green olive branch. A single pristine drop of rainwater rested on one of its leaves, catching the candlelight like a tiny diamond. Liam picked up the branch and held it to his chest. A quiet, genuine smile broke across his face. He didn't know if the old man was just a wise janitor, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion, or God himself showing up in a pair of faded overalls. And it didn't matter. What mattered was that he was going to be okay, 5 years later, on a quiet, tree-lined street in the suburbs. There was an independent bookstore and coffee shop called The Cornerstone. The owner was a man in his early 40s with a relaxed posture and a warm, easy smile for everyone who walked through the door. It was Liam. He hadn't gone back to the cutthroat tech industry to reclaim his lost glory. Instead, he chose a slower, more deliberate life. He had sold off his remaining minor assets, liquidated his car, and methodically paid off his debts over years of patient, grueling work. The lawyers and creditors, initially hostile, eventually came to respect his absolute accountability and transparency. He had written a single, short letter to his former partner. He didn't ask for a dime. He simply wrote that he forgave him and wished him peace. Dropping that letter in the mailbox had given Liam the first full night of uninterrupted sleep he'd had in years. As for his wife, he hadn't begged or pressured her to come back. Instead, he focused on being completely present during his weekend visits with his daughter. He became a father who listened, a husband who communicated without defensiveness, and a man who no longer brought the storm of the office into his living room. The genuine, undeniable shift in his character eventually melted the ice between them. A year and a half ago, they had bought a modest townhouse together, much smaller than their old estate, but filled with infinitely more laughter. Every now and then a customer would come into the bookstore looking frazzled, carrying the heavy, invisible weight of a collapsing life on their shoulders. Whenever Liam noticed that familiar look of defeat, he would pour them a fresh cup of dark roast coffee on the house. He would sit across from them, look them in the eye, and simply listen. And sometimes, when the moment was right, he would tell them a story about a rainy night, an empty church, and 4 simple truths that saved a man's life. Stop fighting the wind and let go of the illusion of control. Let the pain chisel away your ego so your true self can emerge. Drop the poison of resentment to set yourself free. Stop living in the ashes of yesterday and start laying today's brick. Looking out the front window of his shop as the morning sun broke through the clouds, Liam would smile, realizing that divine advice rarely comes as a booming voice from the sky. Most of the time, it is the quietest whisper in the room, waiting for you to finally stop shouting so you can hear it.